What is up, gentlemen, ladies, people in between, and beyond? Welcome to another episode of the AzCast, hosted by none other than everybody's favorite wizard of the 360th degree, Oz Aku. So I just woke up and I decided that I should just start a podcast. This episode is dedicated to thinking positively because it's very important that you perceive the world in a way where you see opportunities, you see beauty, you see great things happening all of the time, everywhere. Because reality is far too complicated for you to perceive all of it. And so you will inevitably perceive only a small fraction of it. And that fraction will be a fraction that you are focusing on. And so if you train your mind to see enemies, negativity, sickness, poverty, injustice, and all of these things, you will find it everywhere. Trust me when I tell you, there's a lot of it in this world. But you can also train your mind to see opportunity, beauty, friends everywhere, to see the magnificence of the world and the way in which everything is intertwined. You can train your mind to see financial opportunity everywhere. Speak not of how horribly people are living in the commie blocks of your city, struggling paycheck to paycheck. Why don't you instead talk about the beauty of the days that will come? Why don't you talk about how amazing your life will be when you get the money? How amazing your life will be when your business succeeds, when your endeavors succeed. Like, I'm talking about this because yesterday I was in a really, really good mood because I was talking to someone close to me that is also like somebody that perceives reality as a place filled with opportunities, and this person is very happy with their lives. And then we were talking to another person, and that other person just started with the most negative self talk ever, man. Like one of those people where no matter what you tell him, he's just gonna find an excuse as to as to why everything is bad, as to why it's all horrible, or there's no salvation. Uh, I don't even want to start repeating what he was saying because I don't want my own mind to hear it. You gotta cut off as many of those people as you can, dear viewer. You can't. I gotta think of a name for my viewers. There's this guy I was watching while he was playing League of Legends. Well, while I was playing League of Legends, he's still playing probably. His name is Cowsep, and he calls his viewers young buffaloes. By the way, I'm like 60% sure that's what he calls them because I never like actually watched his stream. I only like watched clips of him. But he would often say, young buffalo and stuff. So I gotta think of a name for my viewers. The magicians. What up, magician? Yeah, you're gonna be a magician. That's what I'll call it. Um, so magician, bro, you gotta not allow these people to have you project a negative pattern recognition system. I understand right now that people are struggling. I mean, I'm from the Balkans, bro. I'm not from America. I know very well how difficult life can be. But also, I know from experience that your life is only as difficult as you choose to believe that it is. I know people that have grown up in what Western people would call poverty. They've grown up not being able to afford more than one meal a day. They've experienced war and the horrors that come with it. And regardless of this, They ended up working very hard and being very successful in the realms of business or sports, and they got out of poverty. And right now, they have a lot of materialistic possessions. They have those expensive cars that all of those Andrew Tate type people respect. They have beautiful real estate in beautiful locations, and they got there by seeing opportunity, regardless of the fact that they literally could not afford more than one meal a day, and they were struggling bad. Okay, I know this for a fact. This isn't like, this is something I know. And they got out. Meanwhile, I know people that were raised in very comfortable conditions. They had money, they had connections, they had everything. And instead of seeing the value in the position that they were born into, they just started looking for cons. They started looking for reasons as to why their position was a horrible one. And their life trajectory is going downhill. They got into very self destructive habits. They got into drugs. They got into the bad friendship groups. And their lives are just going downhill because they don't see the world as a place of opportunity. So you gotta have that positive self talk, and you gotta acknowledge the fact that when you want something, that something has already been given to you. Because when the creator of the universe laid the foundation of our world, he made the world in a way in which you can get what you want. Don't you understand that? There's not a single thing that you desire in this world that you can't obtain. The fact that you desire it is evidence that you can have it. You would not desire to do a thing if you were unable to do the thing. And I understand that there's situations in which what I just said appears very unreasonable, and you could see me as a Looney Tune type person, someone that's crazy, someone that's not really thinking straight, someone that's not really realistic. But what does it mean to be realistic? Does it mean to imagine something that is possible? Because I want you to remember the story of the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers made the first flying contraption. They made the first airplane. Can you imagine how unrealistic that was at the time? Just imagine. Nobody can fly. Nobody has an airplane. Airplanes have never even existed. It's widely accepted that God created the people in a way in which they cannot fly, and so you're like interfering with God if you decide that you want to fly. It would be like today if you wanted to teleport. You know, everybody would just assume it's not possible because it's never been done. Well, that's what flight was. But the Wright brothers believed. And they built their first airplane and it didn't work. And then they built more contraptions that didn't work. And then one day they called the townspeople and they were like, guys, it's going to work this time. Check it out. And the people watched in awe as the airplane took off from the ground. It flew like 5 centimeters above the ground, and then it collapsed and busted itself up and stuff. And the people were 100% sure that airplanes would never happen and that human flight is just not realistic. Well, here we are. Here we are like 100 years later or so. And if I were to tell you today that it's impossible for humans to create a contraption that can fly through the air, you'd be like, dude, you're being unrealistic. We have airplanes, we have drones, we have all of this stuff. And so I'm telling you this because, like, what does it mean to be realistic? What does it mean to be realistic? What the Wright brothers did was, from our perception, realistic because we know that it's true. We know that you can do that. But everybody on earth at the time believed that that could not be done. Don't you understand that? That's like me today showing up and being like, guys, uh, me and my bro, we just made a teleportation device. Check it out. And it fails. And we do that many times and it always fails. Everybody would be like, oh, teleportation is unrealistic. And then we do it. Then we do it and we start teleporting. Well, that's what the Wright brothers did. Something like that already happened. And you can go even further back in history and assume, well, maybe that's what the first boats were also like. Maybe people believed that boats were impossible. I don't know. But you have to have that unwavering faith. You have to remember that there's no force that has ever defeated a combination of love and faith. Because if you just believe, all right, if you just believe and you're in a good mood, regardless of what's happening, nobody can beat you. Nobody can beat you. You have to have that North Star always guiding you, and you have to not let anybody put you in a shitty mood. Because if you want to do truly great things, it's so much more difficult to do it if you are in a shit mood all of the time. You have to be in a positive mood. You have to believe in yourself. And you have to figure out what the way in which you can always put yourself in a good mood is. For me, I have my methods. I like to go on a really long walk. I've noticed that I can just walk it off. I can just walk it off no matter what happens. I can just walk it off. Sometimes that walk is going to take very long. Like I've been on 2 hour, 3 hour walks. Sometimes the walk is literally just going to be you fucking going outside and going up and down the street. Sometimes the walk can just be you going up and down your room and you can walk it off. But you can walk it off. And if you're in a position where you can't even leave your room, because I've been in that position, by the way, I'm going to talk about it in another episode. Like, uh, when I was 17, I was really, really ill because I was just like, I don't want to talk about that this episode, but I was bedridden and I was living in the hospital for 6 months. Okay, I know what it's like to not be able to leave your room or to be able to even stand up out of your bed. All right, that's how bad it was. And back then, the thing that made me in a good mood and lifted me up was just putting my phone on Do Not Disturb so that nobody can send me a message, nobody can call me. And I would listen to music. And I would imagine myself performing the music in front of millions of people on stage. And like I'm the one playing the guitar, I'm the one singing. That would lift me up. Or I would play a podcast such as this one, and I would just draw. I'd make art, and I'd just go in my own little world. It's such a good feeling being able to create your own world through art, because it can be a world in which you have absolute control over what's going on. And if you decide that you're going to have a character that has a really big, curly, like, hairstyle, you can just have that. And if you want the character to be holding a mace and be walking around with a mace, you can just have that. If you want to make a world in which there's just a tree in the middle of a desert, you can just make that. It's a really beautiful feeling. But it's the type of feeling that you have when you're an artist, when you like to draw, when you like to do that. Some people don't like to do that. You can figure out your other thing. But really, if nothing comes to mind, just keep asking yourself. Keep asking yourself, what is the thing that you can do to lift yourself out of a bad mood and into a good one. I cannot stress enough how this, how much this is important, how important this is. My English started to collapse for a second because I was thinking in another language. So I was like translating it into English. So, yeah, I think that it's really like who would win? Imagine two teams. One team is filled with people where everybody believes that they are destined to win and that victory is imminent. And then you have this other team where people believe that they are destined to lose and that no matter what they do, they're going to lose. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Imagine that these guys that are destined to lose have more resources and they're more fit and whatever and really like from an from a bystander's perspective you'd assume that they would win because you don't know that they all firmly believe in defeat. Whereas these guys, they all believe that they are destined to win. The guys that believe that they're destined to win are going to win every single time. You can't get nowhere if you don't have no faith. I was at a construction site like a couple of days ago, and the the English name for construction site really struck me like a ton of bricks, like a truck. Sight, like vision. Construction site. Oh, I have sight. That means that you can't construct anything if you don't have a vision first. Think about this, really. I know it sounds obvious, but would you ever be able to construct a tall building if you didn't have an exact plan on what you were going to build? Because I don't think you would. I don't think you'd be able to do that at all. Because you'd just, like, what would you do with a pile of construction materials if you did not have a conscious intention of arranging those construction materials to become a building? You would never build a building. It has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. That's just how the game works. And by the game, I mean the game of human existence. I gotta drink a little bit of water. Think about what you want in life. If you don't have an exact goal that you're striving towards, how can you ever arrive there? If a sailor sets out from the port of, I don't know, Istanbul, and he doesn't know where he's sailing to, no wind is favorable. You think he's ever going to get to Barcelona from Istanbul if he doesn't have the conscious intention of sailing to Barcelona? He's never going to get there. And even if he somehow miraculously arrives at Barcelona's port, he's not going to know that he arrived at the destination because that's not his destination. You know what I mean? If you don't have some sort of destination in life that you're aiming towards, then how are you even going to know that you're there when you arrive there if you ever do? Oh, it's just going to feel right. Yeah, you know what else feels right? Being on drugs. Being on drugs and like watching just random content. That also feels right because ultimately you have these senses that give you the feeling of like dopamine when you're in a state of comfort. It can feel right never leaving your room and never trying anything. That can feel right. You can't really be guided fully by your feelings. Although I am a great fan of being guided by feelings, and I make a lot of my decisions feelings based, but the feelings based decisions have to be part of this larger structure that is put there with intention so that it has to be like your rational mind understands that what you're doing is good and it's in cohesion with your intuitive feeling mind. Think about that. I just gulped all of that water down, and I realized that I did it because of my vocal cords or whatever, and my mind immediately brought forth a memory of 4 or 5 days ago when I went to this other town so that I can do a voice acting gig for one of my friends. He's doing like a project, and he needed someone to voice act a priest character. And who's he gonna call? Who are you gonna call to voice act the priest if not the local wizard of the 360th degree? So, anyways, I show up having zero experience with voiceovers, and it was such an interesting learning experience. So, I had a 1.5 liter bottle that I was holding, and I kept taking sips all of the time and voice acting. And, anyways, my voice started acting weird because after like an hour and a half of me yelling there, being loud and stuff, I felt my vocal cords being used up. And I started talking to him about that. And through the conversation, he somehow figured out that I was just drinking the water. I wasn't like holding it in my mouth. And he was like, well, you haven't been holding that, have you? I'm like, no. Well, aren't you just supposed to drink it? He's like, no, dude, you're supposed to hold it in your mouth so that the vocal cords get like wettened or whatever. That's what you're supposed to do. Like, have you just been sipping that thing and like swallowing immediately this whole time? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you fucking. And then he called me the R word. I don't know if you can say the R word on YouTube and not get banned. It's very confusing to me what type of language you can use on what platform and what type of language you can't, right? But that's besides the point. And so right now I'm saying that because I just drank this entire glass of water and I didn't even hold it for like a second at all. But I drank it with the intention of like whitening my vocal cords or whatever. So, anyways, magician. Yeah, that's the name of the viewer. What like magician, dude? Like we're all magicians. Don't you understand that? That's what magic is. Magic is when you don't understand a mechanism that is making something work. When you don't see the underlying mechanism, you perceive it as magic. You know those guys that are like street performers that lay down on that like sit down and they're like levitating, they're holding a stick. Back when you were a kid and you didn't understand what was going on there, like you probably genuinely thought that they were levitating. I know I did. And if you were one of those kids that could figure it out immediately, I'm sure that there's magic tricks that you saw in your life, be it on TV or somewhere, and you genuinely thought that it was magic because you didn't understand the mechanism at play. The mechanism making it work was hidden from you. And so I'm saying you're a magician too, because there's things that you can do that appear like magic. What kind of example can I give over here? Would it not be magical to just get really, really angry and you're like yelling and stuff, and then you just catch yourself and you realize that you have no obligation to continue being angry, even though everybody else in the room expects that from you, and there's this cultural mechanism where it would be really weird for you to be like, but fuck, I did, you know what? I'm chill now. But you can catch yourself. There's tricks to it. You can, whenever you're really angry and you're lost in the moment, think about what color something is. That activates the part of your mind that's more rational thinking and not emotional. Just think about it, like, oh, I was in a fight with this guy at my local. I'm not gonna say where it is because he's probably gonna watch the podcast at some point. Um, you know what? Screw it. I was in a fight with this guy at my local bus station. Okay, and literally as we're fighting, like this happened 2 months ago. Um, as we're fighting, I look into his eyes and I think to myself, oh wow, this man has really beautiful green eyes. Wow, that's crazy. And then I realized I was thinking about the color of his eyes, and then I started thinking about the color of his shirt and everything, and I just caught myself. I became calm. I became calm. I mean, I wasn't like fully calm, but I went from like 100 to like 50. I lost like half of my anger. And that was enough for me to realize that I don't want to continue fighting with this guy. And so what I did is I just crouched to the ground like this. I just crouched to the ground and I put my hands like this. And I was like, I'm so sorry, man. Like, I'm just having a really horrible day right now. And this doesn't actually have anything to do with you, dude. I'm like so fucking sorry about this, man. And he was like, the amount of confusion in this man was like, I can't really describe it. But he got so confused that the confusion overrided his anger. And now the situation was de escalated to such a tremendous degree that, oh man. And everything turned out fine in the end. Just because I looked into his eyes and I was like, holy cow, he's got beautiful green eyes. He really does. Like he's got that. When you look into somebody's eyes and you're like, oh, dude, like this guy's got like really crazy, crazy style, like beautiful eyes. And as I was walking away, I thought to myself how I have to write this down so I can remember it. Because this would be such a cool little thing. Um, yeah. Right now there's birdies outside of over here on my balcony. And I really love birdies. I love the chirping of the birds. I guess I'll go feed the birds. That would be it. This podcast episode really lifted my mood, and I hope it lifted yours as well, magician. I gotta think of a new name for the viewers. Well, if you enjoyed this, make sure to leave a like, leave an engagement comment. Engagement comments actually are better than likes. I found out that liking a video doesn't really do much for the algorithm. Uh, it's more so like how much you engage with it. So could you just like copy the link, even if you're not gonna send it to anybody, just copy the link and leave a comment. Leave any comment. Leave a hate comment for all I care. Like tell me that I look weird or whatever. Thank you for watching, and that would be it for the first episode. Stay tuned for more. I love you, dude, and I hope you make it. Like, whatever your dreams are, I hope you achieve them. And the best way to achieve a dream is to just do it. Don't think about it. Do it. Do it. I didn't think about recording this podcast for more than 3.5 seconds. I just did it. Imagine if I sat down for half an hour thinking about it instead of recording it for half an hour. That would be my final message. Just go do it.